So I just was on Facebook and saw that there was somebody who posted something about their confusion on whether they were an INFJ or an INFP, and how confusing it was for them because they actually felt like they were comfortable with introverted feeling and extroverted intuition, and they did it in some way. And I really felt like I should comment on it because I've had a lot of the same thoughts myself. And so I commented, and I think this really got me to thinking exactly like an argument for that might clear up the confusion a little bit more. Because before this, a lot of it was going on in my head, and I didn't quite know how to organize exactly what I did think. But now that I'm actually working on constructing an argument, I think it's becoming more clear, like really what the difference between an INFP and an INFJ is. So I think the main difference is that an INFP and an INFJ look very, very similar on paper. And I think a lot of the reason for that is the descriptions of both of our cognitive functions have a lot of overlap, and I think they're also very conflated when you read it on the internet because there's a lot of the same vocabulary that we use to express what these things mean. For things like, well, we feel things genuinely, and we have minds that are always off somewhere in the distance and we're not fully present. And I think that is true of both INFJs and INFPs. But why is it that we are always being emotionally genuine? And why is it that our brains are kind of off in the distance all of the time? And while the descriptions, I think, are very much the same, I think the quality of what those functions actually are, the quality of them is very different when you're observing them, in real life. So I think for introverted versus extroverted feeling being like you're always being genuine with emotion and always expressing authentically what's happening. I'm realizing that for an introverted feeler, yes, of course it is genuine, but it's genuine to who they are, completely independent of any outside circumstances. It's not that they have to genuinely express to other people the truth, but they need to be genuinely lining up their own actions with their own feelings. And I may not be describing this right, it makes more sense in my head probably. I'm trying to think of a better way to say it. So, I think an introverted feeler, from what it seems, they need to genuinely express whatever they are like feeling. So, like, it doesn't matter to be genuinely showing it to like other people, because showing their emotions to other people may or may not be genuine. Like, they may feel like they want to be completely alone. They may feel like they don't want to talk to somebody, and therefore they won't. So they're just kind of aligning themselves with an internal desire that is like kind of self-generated. But the thing is, extroverted feelers have also described that they are trying to be emotionally genuine all the time. So what's the deal with that? And I think that what it is that an extroverted feeler always wants to like share emotions and never hide them, because hiding them is like isolating, I think. So we would definitely describe ourselves as being genuine, I believe. Like, I don't think that is just reserved for FI. I think FE is very genuine because there's like a kind of TI honesty maybe that's connected with it. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think I need to think more about that. But I suspect that the need to be genuine is for TI communication, thoroughly understanding everything reasons, maybe. Um, So yeah, I think that extroverted feelers need to extrovert their feeling, and it's only like its most genuine form when you are sharing it. But if you are experiencing your own emotion fully, I don't think we would actually call that being genuine in the same way, because if like we're not sharing it, then it's almost like, is it even real? What's the use for it? Like, I think for an extroverted feeler, emotion is fully and most realistically expressed when we are sharing it, giving and receiving mutually. And so to try to feel something like on our own, independent from that, actually feels incongruent to us. It feels like there's um, something off, something that doesn't fit. And it doesn't feel actually right to sit like in a room alone, like talk to a wall about your feelings, or, you know, because it's not actually like hitting something. You're there's no feedback. If there's no feedback, then is there something really happening? It does not feel genuine if you are not giving or receiving feedback on it. If that makes any sense. Um, so yeah, I think that's probably the main difference with FI and FE, and why they are both genuine. And I think that's really confusing for the FJs who do feel like they're being genuine, because I think introverted feeling is really claimed the title of like authenticity. And while I do agree that they are very, very true to themselves, it's just a different meaning of the word, a different quality to it. And then for introverted intuition and extroverted intuition, you know, I think we both would say we feel disconnected from like the real world. And I guess for me, what I've realized, I'm actually not sure if this is true of like all NFJs. I think a lot of other NJs are more focused than I am for some reason. But I do experience a lot of like, you know, the what you might call spaciness. Um, then I know a lot of like NFPs are known for, you know, I don't know, like being able to live in a different reality, you know, having like having their head in the clouds or something, but in a very like cool, inspiring way. Um, and I do identify to like a feeling of disconnection from the world, but I don't uh, enjoy when I'm like disconnected from like what's in front of my face. Like it does happen frequently, I think, but it also is scary. I think a lot of times it happens to me, especially in dreams, and I'm actually not sure if this is like just the way that all dreams are, or if this is indicating that there's something in the subconscious that requires balance. But when I'm dreaming, falling asleep, I notice that my brain is generating a lot of randomness. You know, things like looking at like letters, or like um, you know, being in a coffee shop or something, and like moving into a completely different room, or settings not matching up. Like I've had dreams where like my school is a hotel. Um, and you know, that's interesting and all, and maybe that's like just part of the way that dreams must be, because your brain is just kind of throwing out random stuff by nature in a dream. But I always wake up from it just feeling very disoriented and very frustrated. I don't enjoy the experience of like unreality, where I would assume that most NFPs enjoy it because it's creative fuel. I think that for an NFJ, we actually don't feel as satisfied with the experience of extroverted intuition, because for us it's not maybe as profitable. For us, like, I feel like we don't really succeed at being as fun as an NFP would be, because we don't really have anything to I want to say like solidify the extroverted intuition, something like that. Like I think that extroverted intuitives are very they have this random fun energy about them, and they can quickly just like spout out like on a whim, like anything. Like they're very quirky and spontaneously funny. They can just make any like random joke like at will. And I've noticed whenever I've tried to be funny, I have tried before, because I was probably attempting something with FE, trying to be witty, and it just wouldn't work, because I would feel like I would feel maybe a like the desire to connect with the spontaneous energy around me, like when I'm talking with other NFPs or NTPs, even SJs. I'll sometimes want to just be witty, and I would realize that I would feel like the motivation in like a grip of energy, but I actually had no tool at my disposal to whip out something, because I would like feel like I was scanning in my head to search for something that I could say that was funny. And the times I've tried, it's been very embarrassing, so I stopped. But yeah, I've noticed that is kind of what happens. So, I think that's really one of the main differences, is that yes, we can experience NE, but it is with a total lack of NI, so it's not useful. And so I think that is why the function frustrates us, because we actually aren't able to use it as a tool as much as almost like we can use it maybe as a cross check for introverted intuition. But I don't think we can use extroverted intuition very well on its own in conjunction with introverted sensing, if that makes any sense. And likewise with introverted feeling, whenever we try to use it, like we might experience the strong feeling that may help. I feel like it's more helpful to us when we're using that in conjunction with FE, when we might be able to sense that there's a deep emotional root, or when we kind of pick up on really subtle dynamics happening. I do believe that that's probably FI, but we always want to use that in conjunction with FE. So we don't want to like apply TE to it and use it like for ourselves. I think we are always trying to just get FE to just process whatever that is. Like, hey, I noticed that this person was acting off today. This doesn't seem like them. I know this specific person very well, and I want to understand that dynamic. So we want to just use more FE and TI with that, and it's sometimes like the subconscious FI can kind of complement that. But if we're ever using FI for its own sake, that's when it can be really difficult, because I think especially because both of my parents are FI users, they kind of expected me to use it as a tool and like apply TE. So, a lot of times I would talk to them, try to like share my emotions with them, and I was expecting a TI explanation for like how to feel better, or like to tell me I was like crazy and I was actually, my thoughts weren't in line. But usually what they would say is, honey, I think you need to go maybe take some time to yourself, like maybe sit in your room and figure out how you feel about it, figure out what you want to do. And I was very confused by that because I would think, well, I don't know what I want to do. I need information on what's correct, and then that informs what I want. But I don't want something first very often. Now, of course, everybody does have a level of personal preferences, of course. Um, I would rather watch TV than play sports, but I wouldn't call that very specifically FI. So a lot of the times they expected me to have very strong personal preferences that I would discover myself by sitting with them. But what I realized from over and over trying to learn FI, it was very strange because it never actually worked. Um, what actually happened was I think it fueled an introverted NITI loop because I would just be trying to understand it and then figure out, well, what is the essence of this? And keep trying to pick it apart, and I would notice that the more and more that happened, all I wanted to do was like leave my room, leave this place of isolation, because my own trying to process my own feelings felt very isolating for some reason. All I wanted to do was just talk about it and expect a solution from somebody. I wanted to explain fully what was happening to somebody else so they could critique my gaps in understanding or my logical inconsistencies or something like that. I wanted them to pick apart what I was saying and give me a solution, or at the very least, to know that I wasn't the only one who like felt like this and that I like wasn't crazy. But I do find it very interesting that as much as my parents tried to teach me to use introverted feeling, because of my extroverted thinking blind spot or polar, that was fairly impossible. And for some reason, I find that very fascinating. So ultimately, I think that is one of the biggest differences between an INFJ and an INFP, because the INFJ has a TE blind spot that makes it impossible for them to utilize FI for themselves properly, while an INFP, that's what they're always trying to do, because they are actively seeking TE all of the time. They want it. And it has a level of strength with them because of how much of a priority introverted feeling would take for an INFP. Yeah. So for all of the INFJs who are feeling confusion, or all of the INFPs who are feeling confusion, I feel like for you INFPs, like, you know who you are instinctually, and so maybe you're feeling less confusion over the TI aspect, but if it's helpful to you, that's great. But yeah, for the INFJs or maybe possibly ENFJs who are feeling confused, I hope this helps you. I hope that this explanation might resonate with you and clear up some of that TI confusion. Yeah. Hope this helps.